Hi, I'm Suzie Boss with you here at PBL World in Napa, California. I'm really excited to have Cameron Paterson from Australia here to chat with us a little bit. He's one of the global educators joining us, and he and his school, Shore School in Australia, have been on a PBL journey for a while, and I'm going to ask him to introduce himself, but also point out that he's one of the 50 finalists for the Global Teacher Prize this year. So we're in wonderful company having him here. So tell us a little about yourself and your school, if you would, Cameron.
Thank you, Suzie. Thank you for that very nice welcome. My name's Cameron. I'm a history teacher and the mentor of learning and teaching at Shore School in North Sydney. It's a private school in North Sydney with a beautiful view of Sydney Harbour Bridge and the Opera House. We've been flirting, I suppose, with PBL for around about 2 years now. We started small. We took a group to the PBL 101 workshop in PBL Australia that was held about 18 months ago. Since then, we had a conference, a staff conference last year on project-based learning. So we're running with the enthusiasts at the moment who are developing their projects and rolling them out across the school over the course of the last year or so. We've had some great things happening on a small scale. And at the moment, I'm trying to work out where we go next and how we build from here. So I'm at PBL World in Napa at the moment, and I've just completed 2 days of the Coaching Academy to try and help us work out what our next steps are back home.
And you're very much in a coaching role at your school, is that right?
Very much, yeah. Well, I've got a series of, a team of coaches who report to me. So I often say that my job is to coach the coaches. But I think coaching is one of the best professional development activities that we can actually undertake in schools. It creates that nice space for teachers to be challenged and for that reflective process to occur without being overly threatening if it's done well.
And there are a couple of things just in talking with you earlier that really stood out to me. One, I'd love for you to talk about the 2 roles that you continue to play, both in the classroom and in professional development, and also how you kind of fine-tuned just your own title to be really reflective of the work that you wanted to do.
I'm a history teacher and I teach high school history. The classes that I teach vary year by year. So we usually teach a range of different age groups. This year I'm teaching grade 9 and grade 11. Next year I might be teaching grade 10 and grade 12. So I usually have 2 classes per year. I love teaching history. I can't imagine myself ever doing a job or a role in a school where I'm not in the classroom. Everybody at my school is in the classroom from the principal down. So we don't actually use the word administrator at all. My job title is the mentor of learning and teaching. So a lot of schools will have a director of teaching and learning, and we've been very conscious about using the word mentor so that my role is a formative role for working with teachers. I'm never in an evaluative position or making summative decisions about teachers. I'm always working alongside them and trying to work out how to get things to the next level, assisting them, working with what they need rather than oftentimes what the top-down approach in the school would actually be dictating. So trying to work more grassroots than through a hierarchical process. So mentor is a very conscious word that we've used, but when I first came into the role, it was the mentor of teaching and learning. And I swapped the words to now call myself the mentor of learning and teaching because I thought it was important to put much more emphasis on the learning than the teaching.
That's fantastic. So one of the interesting things that happens at PBL World is it is a world of educators here. It's a very diverse audience. I think we have 12 countries, 42 states in the US represented, and I'm sure that there are idea exchanges happening all over the place. But I wonder, are there some, you've just described a really interesting idea from Australia that we might ponder about keeping instructional leaders with a foot in the classroom. So there's a lovely idea from Australia. Are there some ideas you've picked up here that you feel like you'd like to take back, or ideas from this sort of a gathering that resonate with you?
Absolutely. Look, I've had lots of fantastic opportunities here in the US. I try and get here whenever I can for a couple of weeks in your summer, in our winter. I've got some strong connections with Project Zero up in Boston, and I'm working there for a week in a couple of weeks' time. The ideas that I've picked up from here have very much framed the professional development that we do at our school. So particularly I'd be talking about the instructional coaching ideas, Jim Knight's partnership principles from Kansas University, the idea of coaching and spreading that in schools, but tied in with that as well, things like instructional rounds from Harvard University, and also the critical friends groups. Last year I was here in LA and I did a 1-week workshop with the National School Reform faculty to learn how to coach and facilitate groups through the use of protocols. That imbues everything we do with our teachers now. Critical friends groups, coaching and instructional rounds pretty much is how we would describe our professional learning program.
Fantastic. And all of those, I think it's a nice chance to point out that all of those practices complement and fit with PBL, right? They're not separate from, or you can't do one because you're doing another. Can you talk a little bit about how they merge and how they work together?
That's probably been my biggest takeaway for the last couple of days here. I've been doing the Coaching Academy, and I came into the Coaching Academy assuming that to be a PBL coach, I'd be learning some specialised skills around PBL coaching. What I've actually found is that we're talking a lot about using protocols like the Critical Friends Group organisation would. We've been talking a lot about instructional coaching, and it's the same principles with a PBL bend. So it just flows seamlessly into what we're already doing, with the idea of those PBL principles, the gold standard, being something that coaches can really work with teachers on, but the principles of how we do it is effectively the same. And to me, that's been really reaffirming.
Sure. And I'm guessing another kind of layer or facet of the PBL that you're involved with might have a bit of a global perspective or global connections. I know you've been involved in some collaborative projects. Can you talk a little bit about how the global perspective fits into the PBL, the new gold standard framework?
Look, I think this is really exciting for where we are in teaching and education right now, the global opportunities that are available to us. We ran a conference at my school last year called the Flat Connections Conference, and it was all about getting people from around the world to link together. We actually had people from Iran coming to stay and work with us. 4 students from Iran came to work with us, and people from France, from US, from Canada, from around the world, which was brilliant. But we've been running projects on a small scale now for a long time. What really kicked things off for me is that in my grade 9 history class, we teach Australia's involvement in World War I. And Gallipoli in 1915 was the big moment in Australia's identity. That's sort of where things start for us in the history books. And as I was teaching it, I became aware that my students were being presented by the textbook in particular with a very patriotic, sometimes mythical view of our history, and it concerned me. And to try and address this, I thought the best way I could do that would be to put them in touch with some Turkish students. So around about 5 years ago now, I started by Skyping. My students had to stay back till about 5 o'clock in the afternoon because of the time difference. But we Skyped with Turkish students, and they started to talk about the difficulties they're experiencing history-wise back in 1915, 1916 on the home front, with only the women and kids left at home and people dying in the streets from starvation. I remember my students saying to me afterwards, why isn't that in our textbook? So it really opened up a whole different sphere to me. And since then, I've led and facilitated all sorts of different global projects. Got a big one that's happened with Turkey for many years now. We've linked with US teachers to have our students interview grandparents about World War II and then look at similarities and differences between that. We have discussed civil rights with US schools. Just did a project with a New Zealand school where it's been 100 years since Gallipoli, the Anzac story, and both Anzac is the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps from 1915. So both schools had students interrogating the significance of commemoration of Anzac 100 years on, and again looking for those similarities and differences. It takes a while to set up global projects like that, but the benefit for the students is just out of this world. Had some great feedback, great reflections, and I find quite often when I talk to those students when they're leaving school, the one thing they remember is, oh, that's when we did that project and spoke to the students from Turkey or from US or wherever.
It really has that resonance, really sticks with them. And as you're describing, you're really unpacking critical thinking.
Yes.
You're getting kids to take perspectives, look at similarities and differences and all that, which of course is a big piece of component of PBL.
Yeah.
So a nice connection.
Also, the fact that they're connecting with their own peers on the other side of the world, people that are their own age. It's just at that time where developmentally they're starting to question who they are and where they fit in. And it's like almost a mirror is being held up in front of them when they talk to somebody their own age on the other side of the world that has a lot of the same opinions but comes from a different environment. It's a powerful learning moment for them at that particular age.
Fantastic. Well, I wonder if we could talk just a little bit about the Global Teacher Prize experience. I know you were one of the top 50 finalists in the world, which is an amazing honor. But what I understand about the application process for the prize, which is open now, it's a wonderful opportunity for teachers to reflect on their own philosophy, their own practice, what matters for them as teachers. Do you want to talk a little bit about your experience going through that process.
Yeah, it's a fantastic process. The questions that you need to answer are really powerful questions. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but I would encourage everybody to have a look at the questions on the Global Teacher Prize website. They're the sorts of questions that I think every teacher should be asking themselves on a regular basis, and coming back to those questions to work out how you have developed in that regard from one year to the next, and what you're doing to take yourself to the next level. The beauty of the Teacher Prize, I don't think it's so much about identifying outstanding teachers. I think it's promoting excellence in the profession of teaching. And I love the hashtag that they use, Teachers Matter. And I think that's what it's all about. It's not about first place, it's not about top 10, it's not about top 50, it's about identifying excellence in teaching and raising the bar for everybody and promoting that fantastic work that's occurring in classrooms right around the world.
Great. Feels like a nice place to stop today. Thank you so much for taking time to share some insights, and thanks for being here. It's wonderful to have your participation in PBL World.
Great to be here in sunny California. Thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks.